Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We continue with our series of relationship and our topic is parenting. In the previous episode, we discussed the role you play as a parent. And now we come to the next critical and important thing that your child needs, and that is to develop their self-worth. Based on the attachment theory, the analogy is as your child is growing up, what do they do and where do they get their self-worth from? They get it from the attention and love and all that you give them. And so what happens to the child, as you give them attention, as you give them love, they get that feeling of safety. They get that feeling of security. They get that feeling of calm. But truly, as believers, where does that come from? And Surah Ra'd ayah 28 tells us, our source of self-worth, our source of that tranquility and peace stems from where? It stems from our remembrance of Allah. And that is in ayah 28 of Surah Ra'd. Yeah. So what is your role as a parent? As much as explained to you in episode 13. So what you need to do in this episode 14 is you need to now take on and build that self-worth of your child and reconnect it back to Allah, and by showing them whatever you are getting, your risk is coming from Allah. The love that they get from you, the source is still Allah. Everything that you're able to do for them, they need to realize it is coming from Allah and not just you. So that is where you avoid this attachment styles and the result of the aggressive child and all those other traits that your child would develop. And so that they truly understand where the source of the self-worth comes from. That identity they build within themselves, that feeling of goodness, that feeling of calmness, that feeling of peace, that feeling of assurance, all of it will come from their remembering the source of all of it, and that is Allah Himself. And the most beautiful thing in Islam is as the child starts growing, at the age of 7, you are commanded to start teaching them Salah. And the best connection that you can ever build of your child to their source of self-worth is through the journey of how you train them in their Salah. Salah comes from the root word salaha, it's connection. And when a child masters that connection, they will be able to use and find that tranquility in their salah. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when Khadija died, when his uncle passed away, what happened? Allah called him, and He gave him the gift of Salah. So when we think Salah is just a command that we need to follow, that is not correct. We need to understand for the true worth of what it is. Salah is that connection. Salah is the source of where your self-worth will come from. That remembrance that you do, the azkar that you do, just by checklisting that I did my azkar, that is not the essence of it. The true essence of it builds your self-worth. So every ibadah, every ritual that you perform in your deen, in Islam, it is supposed to connect you to your source of self-worth. And so it is important that we as parents learn it and we're able to mold our children with the right parenting in Islam and not the Western parenting that we are beginning to adopt, where we find ourselves attaching our children to the dunya instead of attaching them to Allah Himself. And the source of every worth that they will ever feel is through that remembrance of Allah. And that is what you need to learn and you need to embrace, and you can do it, and it is very easy to learn it through the Quranic science of the nafs. So enroll for our program and start your journey. Assalamu alaikum.